Hey everyone, and welcome back. My name is Mackenzie, aka Astromac, and I'm a professional astrologer, and I'm here to talk all things astrology with you. Today we're diving into the fiery and dramatic and radiant world of Leo energy and Leo season, really unpacking what this beautifully radiant and colorful sign is all about. Whether you're a Leo sun yourself or you have other Leo placements, or actually every single one of us has Leo somewhere in our chart. So hopefully this video helps you understand Leo energy as a whole. So we have a lot to get into today. So before we kind of dive in, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe for more astrology videos and astrology deep dives. Also, if you're new here, hi and welcome. I'm Mackenzie, aka Astromac, and I'm a professional astrologer, and I make videos all about astrology, and I also offer a bunch of different astrology readings. So if you're interested in that, you can book with me down at the link below. All right, now let's dive into all things Leo. So Leo is the fifth sign of the zodiac. It goes Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and now Leo. And Leo is, no surprise, ruled by the sun. And Leo is the part of the zodiac wheel that is bold and expressive and creative and radiant, and it's just lit with that main character glow. After the emotional and sensitive waters of Cancer season, Leo comes in a little bit it lightens things up and it invites more fun. It kind of comes in like a spotlight, reminding us to live boldly and passionately and to shine bright and take up space and express ourselves unapologetically. And Leo is very different than the sign that comes before it, being Cancer. Cancer is that sign that is ruled by the moon, and it's all about our inner world and our emotions and our feelings. And it includes our memories and almost our unconscious world and our unconscious way of being. And so if you haven't watched my Cancer 101 video yet, be sure to, watch that after this one. And then as we move into Leo, Leo is that sign that's ruled by the sun, like I said. And so it's all about our conscious self-expression. So if we go back to my plant analogy, if you've been following me since my Aries 101 video, where, that Aries is that seedling sprouting out of the ground and initiating life. And then Taurus is that same seedling deepening its roots and anchoring down and becoming more solid and secure. And then Gemini is that same seedling kind of growing upwards and outwards and leafing out and exploring the environment. And then Cancer is that same seedling, again, going back inward and absorbing nutrients. And really, it's about nurturing our internal growth. And now in Leo, this is the same plant going back above ground, and it's about flowering and blossoming and blooming. It's those beautiful flower blossoms that are showing off their color and attracting in the pollinators. I always think of a sunflower when I think of Leo energy, and not just because of the name, but also because of its bright colors and how it stands tall, and it just attracts attention, and it really isn't afraid to take up space, and it's always facing the sun as well. And Leo energy is known for shining brightly and attracting attention, much like a sunflower. And so these flowers and these plants kind of represent this creative expression that is associated with Leo, and that visibility and that exuberance and that joy and just attracting attention. It says look at me, I'm alive and I'm radiant and look how beautiful I am. It's that kind of energy. Then going back to the beginning of the zodiac, with Aries being that lighting of a match, it's the fire starter. And then Taurus is what comes in to help sustain that momentum and sustain that energy. And then with Gemini, it introduces this changeability and an adaptability and a communicative quality. And then in Cancer, we're kind of nurturing and cultivating those ideas and those things that we learned through Gemini, and feeling into them and recognizing what it is that we care about. And now in Leo, this is kind of taking those things that we care about and turning them into our passions. Leo provides us with the opportunity to express our Cancer feelings through creative self-expression. By expressing our emotions outwardly and creatively, kind of makes more room internally for our inner world to grow and flourish even more. Leo is also the fixed fire sign of the zodiac. And so this is the second fixed sign, the first being Taurus, and the second fire sign, the first being Aries. And so because it is a fixed sign, that means it's kind of like the height of the season. And so it's kind of like we're right in the middle of summer. And so it's like the height of summer. And so when I think of Leo season, I think of, again, like the height of summer where like the sun is at its strongest and it's really hot. There's all kinds of summer activities happening. If you're in the southern hemisphere, this means that you're kind of at the height of winter. And, that doesn't mean that the sun isn't important, but the sun is actually really important in the dead of winter where it's like, any little bit of sun, you'll take it because that'll help warm things up. And so again, Leo is a fixed fire sign, and what is more fixed and fiery than the sun itself? And like I said earlier, Leo is ruled by the sun. And so Leo energy being ruled by the sun, it's like it can't help but shine and attract attention. Like even if they want to hide away and not be seen, it's kind of like there's still just something about them where people can't help but notice them. Just simply because there is just like this glow and this radiance and like this magnetic pull to them. Like think about the sun astronomically speaking, like all of our planets in the solar system revolve around the sun because of its enormous gravitational pull. It's our solar system star, and it's something that we see every single day, and it is the life giver. None of us would be here if it weren't for the sun. And so I feel like this kind of translates to Leo energy in a way where they can't help but have like this main character energy, or they can't help but like find themselves at the center of attention. And there's something very like dependable and consistent about Leo energy as well, being ruled by the sun. One of the very few things that we can 100% count on is the sun rising in the east every morning and setting in the west every evening. And so there's like this consistency and dependability and steadiness with Leo energy. And I think that, these people are very reliable and dependable. And they're also incredibly loyal, like to their people. They can be very like warm and generous and loving and kind. These are the people who would do anything for you if you're like in their inner circle, and it's kind of like they give you the shirt off their back, and they will be consistently loyal to you. But then again, on that same coin, if you kind of like insult them, or you make them feel bad about themselves, or try to dim their light in whatever way, it's kind of like they'll turn off that warmth of the sun and they will be cold AF to you. And they won't forget it, they're a fixed sign. And so they're kind of like Taurus, where they can be almost stubborn and very hard-headed about like some things like that. Like they can be very immovable and they won't change their mind about someone. But with that stubbornness, they are consistent. And that makes me think of like the sun's rulership again. Like, no matter what time of day it is, we can usually like pinpoint where the sun is in the sky. So like the sun, it's kind of like Leo is also very aware of being seen. So depending on like a lot of other factors in the chart, sometimes it's like this Leo person wants to be in charge of how they're being seen. And then going back to Leo being fixed fire, that means like immovable fire. So you can think of like the fiery ball in the sky being the sun, but for me, I tend to always think of like a bonfire or like the fireplace. A bonfire is where like people gather with loved ones and friends, and it's kind of like, it's always a party when there's a bonfire, where people are celebrating life and warmth and fun and play. And bonfires are bright and warm, and everybody is surrounding it, and everybody can't help but watch it like dance around and perform for these people, and it's just doing its thing. And again, the fire brings warmth, and it's that center of attention, and there's kind of like a magnetic pull to those flames. Like if you've ever watched like the flames in a bonfire dance around, like there's something like almost very hypnotic where you like can't take your eyes off of it. And that really describes Leo's ability to attract attention, and like people just can't help but watch Leo. Then bonfires also like bring people together to share stories and make memories and have fun. When I think of a bonfire, again, I think of the warmth and the generosity given by the fire. And, that describes Leo as well, where they're just warm and generous, and they don't do it for any other reason than like that's just what they do. But then again, like with that bonfire or like the fireplace, like those fires need that firewood and that fuel to keep burning. And And so Leo kind of needs that appreciation and to know that their efforts are being appreciated in order to, keep burning and keeping kind and warm and generous, And so it's just a matter of finding like, what is that firewood that fuels your fire? And then can you learn to feed your own fire and, feed your own flame and, give yourself that appreciation that you might be seeking externally. The Leo journey is all about finding your own light and finding your own like inner flame. Another thing that I have noticed about Leo energy is that, pretty much all the Leos that I know, family is very important to them. And I think that speaks to like, because it's the sign that comes after Cancer. And, Cancer is that sign that's associated with, home, family, roots, ancestors. And so Leo kind of builds upon that. And it's kind of like Leo likes to create their own feeling of family. And people are just like very much drawn to Leo people in general, I think. And so Leos can sometimes bring in like stragglers. So they create this feeling of family, whether it's like, having kids or, it's just like they create a family, a lot like Cancer, but not so much in like the mothering, nurturing way of Cancer, but it does it in like more of like a leadership way. Like Leo is really good at like seeing people and seeing the light in people and helping to bring that essence out of people. Leos are very much like these just natural born leaders. Like they're just born with these like innate leadership qualities. And when you think about a good leader, like what kind of qualities does that leader have? Like for me, I think of confidence and charisma and this ability to kind of like have the courage to be the center of attention and the ability to command attention and command a room and this ability to help inspire people and just make these like bold decisions really. And to me, I feel like a good leader needs to also be warm and generous and heart-centered and authentic and have like a certain sense of like optimism and kind of like be able to create a positive environment to help people stay motivated and kind of make sure that their presence and their essence is valued. And Leo has all of these qualities. And another thing is Leo is not afraid to like take charge. It's kind of like Aries in that way, but where Aries is more like, impulsive and they just jump straight into action. I feel like Leo is more sustained and like they'll take charge because like someone's got to do it. And people are already like looking to them for like their leadership abilities. So they're kind of like, okay, I guess I'll do it, And then once they do like take charge, it's kind of like they feel a certain amount of loyalty to these people that they're leading. And it's not like they're being loyal for any particular reason. It's just kind of like, it's part of their energetic makeup. They can't help but be loyal. And so these are the people that will probably never break your loyalty first. Unless you break your loyalty to them, then like that's a whole different story. And again, it's kind of like, think of the warmth of the sun being turned off and that's what they'll do to you. Sometimes they can be like the ice queen because Leo is sensitive, and it's not sensitive in the same way of like Cancer sensitivity. It's sensitive in a completely different way. Like they're more sensitive to like external feedback. And so they might be seeking that external validation or approval in order to kind of like keep fueling their fire rather than staying true to themselves. So part of the life lesson with any Leo placement is learning to self-validate. And, it's not something that just like happens overnight. It's kind of like a lifelong journey. And so it's learning to like not express yourself or, create for others' approval, but rather doing it for yourself. Because when you're creating from this space of like true and authentic self-expression, that's what makes Leo's light radiate 10 times, 100,000 times brighter. Like when it comes from this like your heart space and like that inner spark and that inner flame, and when it just like emanates and radiates out from that space, and it's a true expression of like your raw emotions and again those Cancer feelings, and expressing those internal things outwardly and like shooting them outwardly, that's what really is like what draws in a larger audience. So the goal with Leo energy is to really find that authentic inner spark from within and to express that and to like radiate that out from within. That's why Leo is so strongly associated with like artists and creatives, because it's that sign of like outward, authentic self-expression. And so going back to that bonfire analogy, like you really got to figure out like what is it that fuels your fire and fuels your inner flame? Like what are those things that you are passionate about? Like, is it dancing, or is it singing, or is it, painting, or, is it just like the act of being seen? Or maybe it's like working behind the scenes, and what fuels your fire is like knowing that people don't know that it's you. There's a bunch of different ways. There's so many different things that kind of act as this like symbolic firewood to keep your fire burning. Another thing associated with Leo energy is like having this like royalty quality, or like this king-like quality. And there's just like this like regalness. And I always think of like the lion with Leo, obviously, but like the lion is the king of the jungle. And this like royal quality that Leos tend to have, I think it kind of goes back to the sun's rulership, and just how they have these good leadership qualities, and how there's a magnetism where people can't help but be drawn to them. And again, it's not like all Leos want to be like the king or the queen, or they want to be these leaders. It's just that they might be more willing to, where others are not. Like they'll be the ones to kind of like take the reins when other people are unwilling to. And with that, there's a certain level of bravery and courage that Leos possess. And so Leo does tend to be drawn towards leadership, for better or for worse sometimes. Another very Leo thing is their pride. And that's another thing that can be for better or for worse. Being ruled by the sun, they just kind of have like a strong constitution and a strong sense of self and knowing who they are. Sometimes, because sometimes if you meet a Leo who doesn't know themselves very well, that's when they're seeking that external approval and external validation. And sometimes it can even translate into arrogance if it's not also balanced with a little bit of humility. No matter which way it goes, though, I feel like Leos are very much aware of like their presence and how they attract attention, no matter what. So sometimes with Leo energy, definitely not all the time, but sometimes it's kind of like they're very aware of how things appear on the outside. And so there can be this overemphasis on like appearance, and again, just how things appear externally. Like, for example, if you have Leo on the IC, like these are the people who from the outside looking in, like it might appear like, oh, they're like the perfect family or whatever, when in reality what's going on inside of the house is way less than perfect. But like the overemphasis on how things appear to the outside world is, kind of what is characteristic of that placement. But, that could also be just kind of like that performative quality that Leos have as well. These are the actors and the actresses and the singers and the dancers and just the performers. Like these are the people who know how to put on a good show and, tell a good story and keep an audience captivated. So, of course, like that performative quality can be expressed negatively, where it's like very much an overemphasis on how things appear, or it can be expressed positively. If you take one thing away from Leo energy, let it be that Leo is all about expression, like self-expression. And they inspire self-expression just by, being themselves. Like when I think about Leo energy, I just think about this energy that inspires us to go out and live our lives like boldly and passionately and dramatically. It takes a lot of courage to go out and be yourself and express yourself authentically and just live life to the fullest. And I think that's why Leo is so much like connected to our inner child, because, no one teaches us better to just go out and live our lives than kids. Like think about when you were like a little kid and that self-consciousness hadn't really kicked in yet. And just think about how you just expressed yourself so openly and freely, like running around and screaming and playing and just having so much like unfiltered joy, really. Leo energy is just very fun and childlike, and it has this very like look at me kind of energy. This energy of like, I'm here, love me, that kind of energy. But I really feel like Leo energy is associated with our inner child because it's like, they just have this natural connection to that inner spark and that inner flame. And they're really able to kind of like tap into that inner sense of fun and play and just again, that expression. So there's just like this like exuberant playfulness that is associated with Leo, where they have this like enormous need to have fun and play and be creative, whether that's through art and singing and dancing and performance, or it's just like, playing video games, or it could be like sports or like board games. There's a bunch of different ways that you can play. Like Leo needs to be tapped into those things that they are passionate about and those things that, they just do for fun. That's part of their firewood that fuels that fire and keeps them going. Just incorporating play and fun into their life. Leo energy just really shows us how like all of the world is a stage and each one of us is the main character in our own lives. Sometimes, like, if you have a Leo in your family, for example, they might act like they're the only main character in your entire family, but they just, like, can't help but be loud and proud and expressive and dramatic. They draw in attention. But again, like with Leo, they just need to feel appreciated, and so they might be seeking that external validation and approval. And even though there is a lot of strength associated with Leo, like, I think in tarot, Leo is the strength card, actually. I'll have to look that up. But again, they're also incredibly sensitive, especially to external criticism. Because again, Leo is associated with pride and being proud of what we create. And so when somebody criticizes something that they create or like something that they expressed from within, they're going to take it very personally because it's like what they create, it's like it's a part of themselves. Like they put their whole heart and spirit into the things that they do and create. And so when someone criticizes that, that's going to hurt. So to try and like protect themselves from becoming hurt, in that process, they might become like overly prideful or arrogant or egotistical in this process of trying to like make up for any feelings of insecurity or, whatever it might be. I think above all else though, Leo needs to have some form of self-expression. And it's kind of like, no matter what mode you take, it's going to be channeled creatively. Like it could be in the way that they dress or the way that they style their hair or do their makeup, or it could be again through performance and like dancing and singing and acting, or it could be in like how you decorate your home, or maybe you're like creatively expressive through how you communicate. Like, are you a colorful, loud, exuberant, dramatic communicator? The examples are very much endless. Again, it's just like this outward expression of like, I'm here, let's play. Leo energy, again, it just can't help but shine and radiate. And that's part of that like unique essence that really shines through. And so Leo really teaches us to really take up space on purpose, and not out of like a egotistical way, but out of the space of authenticity. And so Leo season is this time to really connect with our joy and our sense of fun and play and our talents, and really just reconnecting with our passions and our heart. So I know this has been a lot to take in, so let's take things back down to basics and, break things down a little bit. So Leo is the fixed fire sign of the zodiac. So that's like sustained fire. So you can think about like that bonfire analogy again, or a fireplace, or you could think about like the literal ball of fire in the sky being the sun. And Leo is ruled by the sun, and so I think that really speaks to the expressive and animating and illuminating essence of Leo. And the sun is like the spotlight, everybody sees the sun when it's out. And Leo people are like that as well, where they just naturally draw attention. Like even if they're not wanting to be seen, it's kind of like they're seen no matter what. Also think about how like our whole solar system revolves around the sun because of the sun's enormous gravitational and magnetic field. There's also this same magnetic draw to Leo people. Then you can think about like that reliability and dependability of the sun. Like, we can rely on the sun to rise every morning and to set every evening. And then in the Zodiac, Leo is the lion, and the lion is the king of the jungle, and they're also incredibly loyal to their pack. And also, if you've ever seen a lion, like they're like the main character of, whatever they're sitting in. And there's also something so regal about the lion as well, and they really attract attention. And, if you've ever heard a lion roar, you can hear it, really far away. And the lion is a very, important and prominent symbol in a lot of cultures. And, even looking at the glyph, it's got that circle of consciousness and then this energy moving upwards and outwards. It's supposed to represent the lion and its mane and its tail, reflecting Leo's traits of, pride and leadership and this need to be seen and appreciated and celebrated. And again, the lion kind of just represents strength and courage and leadership, and all of these qualities are associated with Leo. And then in our body, Leo rules the heart and the spine. And it's interesting because I really feel like Leo being ruled by the sun is kind of like our inner essence, and it's that planet that we wouldn't be alive, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for the sun. And our heart is that organ that pumps blood throughout our whole body, and it's when it stops beating, that's when we cease to be here on this plane of existence. And I think that really speaks to Leo's strength as well. Our heart is a very, very strong muscle and organ. And I think that also really speaks to Leo's heart-centered energy, where it's everything Leo does just emanates and radiates from this authentic heart space, and just coming from this space and desire to be seen and heard and appreciated. And when they're able to express themselves, from this space of authenticity, that's when that Leo glow and radiance is just 1,000 times brighter, And it's from this heart space that we really discover our passions and those things that just light us up from the inside out. And so now let's talk about some of Leo's strengths and some things that they might have to work on. So at its best, Leo is generous and kind and warm and heart-centered and courageous and magnetic. Again, think about the sun and how it gives warmth and light to everything around it. Being ruled by the sun, I really feel like Leo is that sign that reminds us to go out and live our life. And they remind us that, all the world is a stage and each one of us is the main character in our own lives. And so they invite us to be our own main character. And they inspire us to kind of just be ourselves and express ourselves loudly and proudly and confidently and authentically. And Leo energy really invites us to honor ourselves and really see ourselves, and really see the value in who and what we are and what we bring to, life in general. And I know I said this earlier, but Leo is really good about recognizing that light that's in all of us and helping to bring out that essence and bring out that light from within us, and pointing out what makes you you and what makes you unique, and just inviting space and making space for you to be yourself. And I think that's a part of their warmth and generosity. Yes, they act as a spotlight themselves, but then they're also really good about putting that spotlight on other people as well, using their ability to illuminate the strength in other people and bring that out of them. And again, they make great leaders and they can be trendsetters in that way. And they just have a warmth and a glow and a radiance where you can't take your eyes off of them. And again, there's just a loyalty and a consistency that is so wonderful. But like any sign, Leo also has its shadows, and so some of their shadows might show up for this excessive need for validation or excessive pride or this fear of not being special. And so all of these can kind of show up when Leo is feeling insecure, or they're feeling like they're not seen or heard. And so an under-resourced or an insecure Leo might kind of be overly self-involved or egotistical or self-obsessed or just feeling like they're better than other people, or almost this excessive need for attention. But what they're doing is it's they're trying to almost overcompensate for any of these insecurities that they feel from within. And so again, they need to learn how to self-validate and really get to know themselves. and not look externally for validation, but making sure that it comes from within. Because again, when they can come back to that heart space and that heart-centered energy and express themselves and really radiate from that space of true self-expression, that's when they glow 1,000 times brighter. They can also be very stubborn, where it's like, I'm right, you're wrong, it's my way or the highway. That's part of that fixed quality. And I know I touched on this earlier, but sometimes Leo energy can be very overly focused on appearance and how they're appearing externally. And again, that kind of is part of their performative quality. And it's them wanting to put on a good show, and so they might exaggerate or stretch the truth in an attempt to make the story sound better than what it really is. I know I talked about Leo being associated with royalty, and I think the royal family is actually a really good example of how, things appear externally versus how they actually are. They put out this appearance and this front that they're this perfect, wonderful family when, we know it's actually very different. And so we all know that this isn't true, but yet they still put on this performance. And so I think that kind of shows some of that shadowy manifestation of Leo energy being overly concerned with appearance. And so the truth is, Leo does not need to perform to be worthy. The real magic is when Leo creates from the heart and allows others to shine as well. And so Leo reminds us that, we're all stars in our own life and in our own right. And Leo season is our invitation to stop dimming our light and stop making ourselves small, and rather radiate that light. And remember that your light doesn't take away from the light of anyone else. When you shine, it inspires and, allows others to do the same. So during this Leo season, maybe use this time to invite more play and fun into your life and create something just for fun. Dance, write, paint, sing, and do it for yourself. You don't have to do it for anyone other than yourself. Remember, Leo is all about just that self-expression and coming from that heart space. It's that spark of divine confidence that says I'm here and I'm alive and I deserve to be here. And I deserve to take up space. And so also celebrate yourself unapologetically this Leo season. And then also be generous with your praise and, show your appreciations. Don't gatekeep your love, share the love with people. And so before we go, if this video resonated with you at all, be sure to give it a like and, share it with some of your Leo friends, and hit subscribe for more astrology deep dives. And if you have Leo placements, be sure to comment down below if you resonated, and be sure to leave a comment with what Leo energy means to you. And yeah, I think that's all I've got for now. So thanks for watching, and until next time, love you, bye!